You're up.
Good morning, 4th and 5th graders. How's your day? Bible, 100% true and accurate. Christianity is a relationship with Jesus. Christians are different from this world. You're different from the other kids. That's a good thing. God created the heavens and the earth. Evolution doesn't make any sense. Today, we're going to find out the prophet Jonah and his book in the Old Testament. To start out, as an introduction, picture a mean, trouble-causing person or group of people that are just mean and trouble-causing. In the Bible, Old Testament, we studied Egypt and Pharaoh, and this is after Pharaoh and the Egyptians forgot about what Joseph did for them, and he thought that the Israelites were getting too strong, and he was really mean. He ordered that the children, they should be killed to weaken them. You can think of Herod in the New Testament. Same thing with when Jesus was born. Mean, wicked man, and he also ordered kids to be killed. Well, this is Jonah. Think of what should happen to these people that I just mentioned. Let's see how Jonah handled this. The Lord gave this message to Jonah, the prophet. He said, "Get up and go to the great city of Nineveh. Announce my judgment against it, because I have seen how wicked its people are." Okay. He planned to destroy them like Sodom and Gomorrah. How wicked are they? How bad were the people of Nineveh? I'm going to go ahead 1 to Nahum. And Nineveh was called a city of murder, a city of cruelty. They were arrogant. They were braggers. They thought they were hot stuff. They worshipped idols. They murdered people. They lied. Treachery is mentioned, which means you can't trust them or they're dangerous. They also practiced witchcraft. So here's Jonah. He's a prophet. Jonah knows all this, and he got up and went in the opposite direction in order to get away from the Lord. You think that's a good idea? Okay, here's the map. Here's Joppa. And the Lord told him to go to Nineveh, this way. Well, he got in a boat, which we'll find, and he went the opposite direction towards Tarshish, way far away. Let's see what happens. So he bought a ticket, he got on board a boat, hoping that by going away and going west, he could escape the Lord. But the ship was sailing along. Suddenly the Lord flung a powerful wind over the sea, causing a violent storm, and threatened to send them to the bottom. Fearing for their lives, the desperate sailors shouted to their gods for help and threw the cargo overboard to lighten the ship. All this time Jonah was sound asleep in the bottom of the ship. So the captain went down after him. "How can you sleep at a time like this?" he shouted. "Get up and pray to your God. Maybe he will have mercy on us and spare our lives." So the crew cast lots to see which one of them offended the gods. Cast lots, that is a technique, a procedure to put mixing stones in a container and somehow pulling them out. It's like throwing dice to find out who was the culprit here. It's like drawing straws. When they did this, Jonah lost the toss. And the sailors said, "What have you done to bring this awful storm on us?" they demanded. "Who are you? What is your line of work? What country are you from? What is your nationality?" And Jonah answered, "I'm a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made sea and land." He told them he was running away from the Lord. Then the sailors were terrified when they heard this. "Oh, why did you do it?" they groaned. And since the storm was getting worse all the time, they asked him, "What should we do to you to stop the storm?" And Jonah said, "Throw me into the sea, and it will become calm again, for I know that this terrible storm is all my fault. Instead, the sailors, they didn't want to do this. They tried harder to row the boat ashore, but the stormy sea was too violent for them, and they couldn't make it. Then they cried out to the Lord, Jonah's God. They said, "Oh Lord, please don't make us die for this man's sin, and don't hold us responsible for his death, because it isn't our fault. Oh Lord, you have sent this storm upon him for your own good reason." Then the sailors picked up Jonah and threw him into the raging sea. The storm stopped at once. The sailors were awestruck by the Lord's great power as they offered him a sacrifice and vowed to serve him. Now, the Lord had arranged a what to swallow Jonah? Okay, correct. Your version may say a whale. Mine says a great fish. And Jonah was inside the fish for how long? Correct, 3 days and 3 nights. And then Jonah prayed to the Lord, and he kind of rambled on and talked about his predicament and what just happened to him, and really didn't say much. And then when he hit bottom, he had lost all hope, and as a last resort, he turned his thoughts once more to the Lord. And he prayed. And he said, "I will offer sacrifices to you with songs of praise. I will fulfill all my vows, for my salvation comes from the Lord alone." And so he repents, and he promises to change. Then the Lord ordered the fish to spit up Jonah on the beach, and it did. Then the Lord spoke to Jonah a second time. He said, "Get up, go to the great city of Nineveh, and deliver the message of judgment I have given you." And Jonah said, "Okay." This time, Jonah obeyed the Lord's command and went to Nineveh, so large that it took 3 days to see it all. On the day Jonah entered the city, he shouted to the crowds, 40 days from now, Nineveh will be destroyed, saying, "You're toast." So what did the people do? The people of Nineveh believed God's message. From the greatest to the least, they decided to go without food and water, wear sackcloth to show their sorrow. Even the king of Nineveh, when he heard what Jonah was saying, he stepped down from the throne, took off his robes, and he dressed himself in sackcloth and sat in a heap of ashes. Then the king and his nobles sent this decree throughout the city: no one, not even the animals, may eat or drink anything at all. Now, Pastor Joe talked about this. What do the animals have to do with it? Well, he said when you don't feed the animals, what do? Well, they will cry out and make noises, and all over the city there will be voices and noises that something is really, really wrong. Who can tell? Perhaps even yet God will have pity on us and hold back his fierce anger from us, destroying us. Okay, when God saw that they had put a stop to their evil ways, he had mercy on them and didn't carry out the destruction he had threatened. Okay, that would be repentance. Repentance means 2 things. That means to admit that you're wrong, say you're sorry, and the second thing, you're going to change. This is what the people of Nineveh did, and they put a stop to their evil ways, and God had mercy on them. He didn't carry out the destruction he had threatened, but is everybody happy? This change of plans upset Jonah. He became very angry. Pastor Joe said hot. So he complained to the Lord about it. Didn't I say before I left home that you'd do this, Lord? That's why I ran away to Tarshish. I knew that you were a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger, filled with unfailing love. I knew how easily you could cancel your plans for destroying these people. Just kill me now. I'd rather be dead than alive, because I predicted this is going to happen. Okay, who's he thinking about? He's thinking about himself. He's a prophet. He's a hotshot, he thinks. And he predicted something, and God changed his mind, and it didn't happen. So he was mad about that, thinking about himself. And also there's the word revenge in there. He wanted the people of Nineveh to pay. So Jonah went out on the east side of the city, he made a shelter, and he waited to see if anything would happen to the city. So he's sitting under the shelter, and he's stewing, and he's still mad. And God arranged for a plant, big leafy plant, to grow there. And it spread its broad leaves over Jonah's head, shading him from the sun. This eased some of the discomfort, and Jonah was greatly happy about the plant. But God prepared a worm. He killed the plant, and in time it withered and died. So the sun was beating down on his head again. So Jonah became angry again. Then God said to Jonah, "Is it right for you to be angry because the plant died?" And Jonah's still stewing, and he said, "Angry enough to die." Then the Lord said, "Here's the lesson here. Now, you feel sorry for the plant, but you did nothing to put it there, and the plant is short-lived anyway. But Nineveh has more than 120,000 people living in spiritual darkness, not to mention all the animals. Shouldn't I feel sorry for such a great city?" So Jonah was thinking only of himself and revenge against Nineveh. And God taught him a lesson. Okay, application. Has anybody been mean to you? Hurt you for no reason? Stolen from you? Let me give a couple examples. Say, for instance, you get a new bike and your brother asks for permission to ride it, and you say, "No, I don't want you to." Anyway, he takes it out, he wrecks the bike, he bends the rim, he bends the front forks, the handlebars are wrecked and bent, can't be ridden. What should happen to him? Second example, what if your sister takes your new clothes and wears them outside, wears them to school without asking, and trashes them? What should happen? Well, I think two things for sure. They should admit wrong, they should apologize, and promise that it won't happen again, ever. Second thing, the bike should be fixed like new, the clothes should be replaced, and that should be it. What if you don't think that's enough and you just stay angry like Jonah did? Your face gets red every time you see him. Think about what you're going to say the next time you see him. You stay awake at night thinking about what you're going to say. And it's like a tape recorder. And you say, "No, that's not good enough. That's not harsh enough. I want to really get him this time." So the tape goes around and around like looping a tape. You don't give it up. This is man's way, like looping that tape and getting revenge. However, God's way is not man's way. And let me show you an object lesson to demonstrate this. I've got two balloons. One's big, one's small. I'm going to undo this one. And nothing will happen. This is a spool that has a passageway in here that will allow air to go back and forth. And so let me get rid of this guy. Nothing's going to happen. He's just going to go in the spool. Let me get him off. There we go. Okay, got two balloons. One's bigger, one's smaller. Okay, what's going to happen? I untied this one. What's going to happen when I untie this one? Okay. I got it. The big one's going to blow air into the little one, and the pressure's going to be equal, and the balloons are going to be the same size. Well, here's our lesson. God's way is not man's way. Think about that a minute. Think about our lesson. God's way is not man's way. I don't care. I learned about this in 5th grade science, and it's called pressure equalization. They're gonna be equal. they're all going to be the same. But God's way is not man's way. Let's see what happens when I untie this and see what happens here. Oh my gosh. How did that work? Well, I guess God's way is not man's way. God's way is to forgive. That means you don't be angry anymore. When you forgive somebody, you're not angry anymore. You give it up. You forget like it never happened. Well, this is where a short memory can be a good thing. Like in our story, what's more important to God? Is it punishment and revenge? Or admitting that you're wrong and you're sorry? To truly change, follow his ways. Consider the bad things that people do as evil, the things that they do, but not the people. I learned this a long time ago. Consider just what they do as evil, but consider the people as lost. Let me give a couple examples from the New Testament to reinforce this. This is Luke 15, and this is Jesus. This is tax collectors and other notorious sinners. Okay, tax collectors were bad people. They would steal from people and take more taxes than they should and keep it for themselves. Notorious sinners, they came to listen to Jesus teach. This made the teachers of religious law and the religious hotshots complain that he was associating with such despicable people and even eating with them. Okay, this made Jesus mad. And he tells them 3 stories. And the first one, if you had 100 sheep and one of them strayed away and was lost in the wilderness, wouldn't you leave the 99 others to go and search for the lost one until you found it? And then you would joyfully carry it home on your shoulders. When you arrived, you would call together your friends and neighbors and rejoice because your lost sheep was found. In the same way, heaven will be happier over one lost sinner who returns to God over 99 others who are righteous and have not strayed away. And so he's confronting the Jewish leaders. And he said, this is what I do. This is what God is like. Why don't you? The way you're regarding these people angers me. Okay, similar to Jonah, similar to Nineveh. Tells another story. Suppose a woman has 10 valuable silver coins. Okay, it was tradition back then when ladies got married that their gifts would be silver coins, usually 10. And in this story, in this parable, she loses one. It's be like for the lady losing a wedding ring. Won't she light a lamp and look for it in every corner of the house, sweep every nook and cranny until she finds it? And when she finds it, she will call her friends and neighbors and rejoice of God's angels. Wrong. And rejoice with her because she has found her lost coin. In the same way, there is joy in the presence of God's angels, even when one sinner repents. Okay, who's most important? Okay, the lost sheep's most important out of the 99. The lost coin is more important. And one more illustration. He told another story about a man who had 2 sons. The younger son, who is probably a spoiled brat. And he said, went to his dad and he said, I want my inheritance now. I want my share of your estate now, instead of waiting for you to die. Okay, so he's a bad boy. It's kind of implying too that maybe he's wishing that his dad was dead. So his father agreed to divide his wealth between the sons. A few days later, the younger son packed up all his belongings and he took a trip to a distant land. There he wasted all the money on wild living. About that time, the money ran out, and then a famine swept the land. You know what a famine is. There's no rain, and the crops are bad, and people don't have enough to eat. And he began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him to feed the pigs. Okay, now you know Jewish tradition that the Israelites regard pigs as unclean. They shouldn't have anything to do with them. The boy became hungry that even the pods that he was feeding the pigs looked good to him, but no one gave him anything. And when he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, at home, even the hired men have food enough to spare. I am here. I am dying of hunger. I will go home to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you. I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me on as a hired hand. So he is repenting. So he's returning home to his father. And while he was still a long distance away, his father saw him coming. Okay, what would a lot of dads do if he knew exactly what happened to his son and they blew his inheritance? A lot of dads may be pretty upset and angry. But in this parable, the dad represents God. And the dad, filled with love and compassion, ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. And his son said to him, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and earth and you, and I am no longer to be called your son. But his father said to the servants, Quick, bring the finest robe in the house, put it on, get the ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and kill the calf we've been fattening in the pen. We must celebrate the feast. For this son of mine was dead, and now he's returned to life. He was lost, but now he's found. So let the party begin. Okay, very clear. God was happy to see Nineveh turn around. He's happy when the lost sheep was found. He's happy when the ring or the coin was found with the lady. And he's happy when the boy turned around and changed his behavior when he repented. So, good lessons here on repentance and revenge. Thank you guys. See you next week.